Hi, intuitive viewers. Welcome. I am here with Andre from Astrology Alert. Hi, Andre.
Hi, everyone.
How's it going? Everything okay?
Yeah, everything is good. Yep.
All right. Well, we're going to jump in because I know we both have a long list of stuff to get to because I know there's a lot happening and it seems like it doesn't ever let up. It just seems like there's more and more and more stuff to think about and deal with. And a lot of big personalities right now, a lot of big personalities that want all the attention. And when you have a lot of people like that in the limelight at the same time, it's crazy. It really does create a crazy environment, a circus-like environment.
Yeah, I agree. Although we can't really say that it's changed that much in the last, I don't know, since 2016, it's been this just constant thing where you go from one thing to another. You don't get any rest,
It's
and a lot of them are outrageous. Yeah, it's true.
It's true. However, when Trump was the main person, it seemed like he didn't like anybody in his limelight. So it really was all you would hear was Trump and Trump and Trump and Trump. And now he's kind of receded to the background a little bit. You've got all these minis popping up and they want all of the limelight, and you just can't have it all the time. But one person who is getting a lot of attention right now is George Santos. So I thought if you could talk.
He certainly is. Yeah, no,
I know what I've gotten for him, but I know that you said on your video about him that he is going to have a really hard time now till March, and then it gets even worse into summer. It's going to be even more difficult. So explain what that means for him and why you're seeing that for him. Well,
okay. So the first thing about George Santos is that there's a birthday out there. Then you think, was that his birthday?
Right. Even his name, we're like, we don't know.
Yeah, you just have no idea. But what's out there is such that, and without a time too, which if you have a birth time, you can really hone in more. But even without a time, you notice that he's already in it. It's pretty clear that people are calling him on his lies daily, and new things come up and so forth. But what you see in his chart, that irrespective of time, is the Pluto cycle, which is separately, it's another great topic, the idea that Pluto's getting out of Capricorn. It's been in Capricorn since 2008. But it turns out that he is either very late in Cancer or very early in Leo. I have a feeling he's probably early in Leo because his behavior has this feel of, this over-the-top arrogance and I can just do whatever I want type of energy, which is when Leo goes bad, so to speak, right? So, but either way, so where Pluto is going, as we get into the spring period, Pluto enters the early Aquarius degrees, and just before that, it's very late in Capricorn. So that means it's opposing his sun. And in astrology, whenever someone is in the thick of something that is threatening, and this is really threatening, especially when they bring up his money dealings, now he's on checking boxes that previously said it was his money, but now maybe it isn't. And this is how you invite serious investigations, and then things can get really problematic. So that's one problem that is really serious. And then the more we go toward the middle of the year, there are two other planets that are getting a big hit related to the way he played this whole thing was basically a major deception. He invented all kinds of things. That's where that's the planet there is Neptune, and Neptune is moving in and to challenge. And you see this in astrology a lot, that you start your scam or whatever you're doing under that planet, and then it finds you later to confront you with the problem. So I see him basically, I think he's teetering. I think any day it could collapse on him because he may not have to wait until the summer or even until the spring. At any point, he may go down, and then he has to still live through those aspects, those periods, which would mean the investigation, who knows where it goes, right? But the main point is that it's not good terrain, to be in the context of what is happening to him. Let's just say that, right? So, yeah.
Right. And
That's Santos.
I always wonder with people like him and Donald Trump, who clearly just lie and lie and lie. They can't, it's almost like they can't tell the truth, whatever, even little mundane things. Like there was a question for George Santos about what do you and your family do for fun? And he stole the guy's answer who just went before him because he can't stop, he can't tell the truth about himself. Is there a planet alignment that is associated with truth? And so people like them, if when it's in their chart or when it's around, that lying is especially bad at that time. Is there, what is the alignment?
Neptune. The planet is Neptune. So the irony is that Neptune, this is the thing that people have to understand about astrology, is that the planets are not rigid entities. They have a big range, high, low, or call it good, bad, high, low, harmonious, disharmonious. So Neptune on the highest end is the most spiritual planet. And if you think about spirit, there's a kind of undefined sense about spirit always. Like that's why in the old teachings, they called it the ether and things like that. It's this mysterious dimension. So because of that undefined nature, which is the nature of spirit, when you start going down, 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 and you get to the complete opposite end, you get deception, lies, gaslighting, something isn't what it seems. So it fits all the con men and women too that do this as well. I mean, MTG is great at this. So in his chart, he's got enough Neptune, right? Even without a birth time, you can see a Neptune angle in the chart. And all that has to happen is either the Neptune or the planet that is being challenged. You put them in an important spot, boom, this person is going to go through Neptune all the time. And you're totally right. Both of these individuals, it's like it's ingrained. They seem to just take whatever's in the moment and, okay, this sounds good, put it out. And, that works for a while. But when you have all these reporters asking, that's a bad trip. Now you're in trouble.
Right. Yeah, it's one thing to fool just the people around you or in your town, but to try to do it nationwide with every reporter on your back is madness. Exactly. It's like you said, it's a not winning strategy. Now MTG, is she? What is her? What is she?
What is she? Yeah. What is she? Well, what is she like astrologically? What is she like broadly?
Does she have that Leo part? What is that really aggressive? She's so confrontational and so aggressive and so in your face. What sign is in her chart that makes her that way or assists her in being that way?
Well, there with her, it's another chart with no time. So I suspect probably a fire sign rising, probably, because her behavior is so overtly forward and overly direct, aggressive, etc. So that would be like maybe Aries, Leo, Sagittarius rising, or possibly another way it could work is if you put Mars on the ascendant. That's Trump's, vulgar, aggressive behavior. That's Mars rising. But I don't know what her rising sign is. But she's a Gemini, and these days there are a lot of these Geminis that, in fact, on my channels, people say, "Oh my God, you keep talking about Geminis, and I'm a Gemini." And this, that doesn't mean that, but Gemini, they're talkers, communicators, and you don't know which way they're going to go. Once again, it's that thing of the range, right? Are you speaking? Are you speaking clearly and focusing on good things, or are you inventing things? And so it's the Gemini energy, and she does have in her chart, even separate from that fire thing, she has harsh energies. Like one of them is when you pair in any chart Saturn and Pluto together, they're very harsh energies, and people are likely to go down this path where they say crazy things, and it's almost like they're overly concerned with appending things and overly transforming things, which is what she's onto, right? So, but her problem is, once again, is the planet you never want to get, visits from when you behave this way is Saturn, because Saturn is the ultra realistic energy, and she's got a lot of Saturn all through this year, and it gets worse and worse as we get into spring and March, April, May, June. Saturn is moving toward where our sun is and squaring it. And people like this always struggle mightily when Saturn visits them because they are so careless with the way they do things and they leave trails, right? And then, and also they miscalculate. I mean, people are thinking now she's really brilliant. I'm not buying that. I mean, quite frankly.
I think some people some people can, conflate being just ruthless and will say anything and being strategic. And I just think that, no, they're just willing to say or do anything to get past the moment. And so it seems like they have some great grand strategy, but they really don't. They will just do and say whatever they have to. And a lot of people won't do that. Right.
That's correct. And the thing is, the problem here, as I see it, is that our system has drifted into this thing where politicians are always looking for money to fund their whatever they're doing. Because I see this on the Democratic side as well. I mean, I'm on their list, and I mean, Adam Schiff. I love Adam Schiff, but I get 8 emails from him a day doing the exact same thing. That Marjorie Taylor Greene will throw an insult and then say, "Send me some money so I can keep fighting these horrible communist Democrats." So it makes it tough because then she sees the money rolling in and she thinks that this is working, and it does work for a while. But like we saw in the last election, it's if you have 100 people in a room and someone says to you, "Look, 45 of them really like you." Yeah, but the other 55 don't. So, right? What happens? You go to vote. So, but I mean, I sometimes get the feeling with, it's funny that you mentioned MTG and Trump. With Trump, I get the feeling that he has the sense that he can't really lose because no matter what happens, if he wins, great. And if he loses, he'll play victim and ask people to send the money. And there are a lot of people that seem to think that it's a good idea. I'm amazed. I'm amazed that people are sending this guy money, but he knows he's got that line. And so he just keeps saying things and money rolls in and, I'm happy being in charge and I'm happy being in the opposition. So it's quite discouraging. I think MTG is the same way, but
I think you're right. I think that she has those same goals, and she's found her niche, I think, within the system in being this kind of bomb thrower, chaos agent, and then being able to grift from it. It's same kind of, you're right. That Donald Trump strategy, whatever that is.
This is the thing that, I mean, you can always find people to follow you, but I mean, please, like pick a subject that is halfway decent. This is, I mean, it's so corrupt. It's so corrupt. I mean, they're flipping these days. The Republican Party flips everything over, and it's the Trump technique: accuse you of what they're doing. Accuse you. Oh, you're corrupt. You're anti-American. Really?
Yeah, exactly. You who worked for Russia. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, can you believe that the Republican Party is trying to, through the front door or the back door, advocate for Putin? I mean, that's just outrageous. It's completely outrageous to see this guy's a thug. He's killing people. How can you? It's beyond the pale, but that's where we are.
It's beyond the pale. Exactly. That's where we are. And speaking of beyond the pale, and he is very pale, Kevin McCarthy. Now, what in the world was that he had to? I mean, he had to. I talk about this kind of on my channel where I talk about the fact that you can force things to happen, right? You can have that, thing where you force an outcome, and but it usually is short-lived. It usually lands with a thumb, but you can force an outcome, and I feel like that's Kevin McCarthy. He's forcing his outcome, forcing himself into the speaker chair, but I do think it will be short-lived. It just doesn't seem sustainable.
I agree with you 100%. It's like if someone, you can imagine you got a business opportunity of some kind, but then someone said to you, "Do you realize that's drug money or mafia money?" No, don't do that. That's not a good idea. even if it works well, probably going to stare. He did all these things that compromised his position, and he's actually very similar. The Saturn pressure, I would say, even worse in some ways to MTG, because both of them have Saturn really building as we go toward the middle of the year. And that's not good. It's just not good because of the way he plays. You know, exactly as you said, he's cut bargains. He forced it. He instead of thinking, well, if I do this, it'll put me in a really difficult spot. He just made bargains with everybody, Matt Gaetz, Margie Taylor Greene. And so now when the Saturn comes in, which I would say at the latest by the summer, you're going to see intense pressure on these two.
Right.
You know, and you know, Saturn is also famous for it just blocks you, it restrains you, it doesn't let you progress when you've created what you've created is flawed, right? And I think it is flawed because in that caucus, they've got enough people that cannot afford to go MAGA because they won't be reelected in 2024 because they're in districts that Biden is popular in or like more democratic. So you get this split. And so then a lot of what they're trying to do is going to get blocked, and then she'll probably get more angry, and so will he, and who knows. But I mean, bottom line, difficult for both of them. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. And you know, as we're talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene, Trump, McCarthy, they all also have a real stubbornness beyond reason, because I think by vote 3 or 4, after people telling me we don't want you as speaker, I probably would have given up and said, well, maybe I'm not meant to be speaker, and just let it go. But him, vote 10, vote 11, 12, 13, 14, it's like this stubbornness. And same with Trump, just this relentlessness that you think if they were working for good, how much good they could probably get done, because they are so relentless. They will not go away. They will not give up. Right. And you talk about how when you talk about people's charts, and which something that I love that you brought, that I hadn't ever heard anyone say quite the way that you said it, but that these planets that align in the way they align, you can either work with them or against them. And that's what your chart gives you. It's like free will. You can work with the way, you know, things are you know, if I you told me in my chart that I'd have kind of a little bit of a bumpy kind of the end of the year, kind of like I was thinking about like September to about December, that area. So I didn't rock the boat. Like I didn't go write bad checks, or I didn't go out and commit crimes, and I didn't lie to everybody. And I kind of laid low and took things easy and really listened to my instincts. And if I felt pushback, I kind of let things go. Is that what you're talking about when you're saying like you can work with the energies, or you can work against them, or be aware of them and just be kind of like, okay, maybe I'll just kind of let this go because I know in my chart it's this, and if I play into this, it's bad, or it's going to be not great for me, right?
Exactly. Like I'm just looking at your chart, and the reason I said that is 2 planets, your Aquarius moon and your Neptune, actually, where they are, the Saturn, it's still not quite through. It's almost past the Neptune now. But yeah, exactly what you said. When you play to the wise side of Saturn, which is caution, you almost play more defense than offense.
Right.
Things like, for instance, do your move deliberately. People will complain of falls and injuries because they're not paying attention. Then they fall, and that's Saturn reminding them, hey, pay attention, right? So if you do it that way, you stay safe, because in a way you're self-imposing the restriction through wisdom. But if you push into things when Saturn's around, yes, the odds are that it'll resist you, or at least catch you at some point in the cycle with something that's unworkable. So that's exactly it. You said it 100% how it works. Yeah.
Right. But then you've got these really stubborn people, these really stubborn energies. And so if they're in some kind of cycle like that, it's just not good, right? It's almost like you're asking for a pile of bricks to fall on you.
Exactly. Yeah. You're asking like this was, by the way, this was Saturn's or Trump's main hindrance in 2020. I could see he couldn't win because right at election time, the Saturn was really, really strong. And Saturn has a way of bringing in all the karmic patterns that you've brought up to that point. And he thought he could pull it off with a variety of tricks, but it all coalesced and it was the end. So yeah, it's the idea of stubbornness and pushing through something where you're getting signals that
right.
maybe you shouldn't, right? And you said before about fourth vote, like even if you want more votes, what is it exactly that is going to change the vote in your favor? I mean, they got to 15 eventually. The way he won the speakership, McCarthy, was by conceding too much, giving up too many things he shouldn't have. And so, yeah, it's exactly that. Yeah, 100%. And it's not good, but it's good. It's good for us.
Yeah.
That are watching, because you think, I mean, I don't want MTG to succeed or Kevin McCarthy. I don't. I'm sorry, but no,
right. Well, and I always think that being able to witness these things from afar, it's a lesson. It's a lesson for all of us. And luckily we don't have to go through it ourselves being them, but we can see so clearly what's going on, what's happening, and we can use it to our benefit.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Yeah, that's exactly it.
So let's move to Europe a little bit, because we're talking about the craziness here, but there's some craziness with the war and even some of the financial stuff happening over there, and energy things that are happening over there. But with the charts that you've done with Putin, Zelensky, Ukraine, Russia, are you surprised the war has gone this long? Did you expect it to kind of burn out more quickly, or did you feel like it's going to go on?
No, I always felt, I remember when it broke out in the spring of 22, and a couple of people even sent me these messages. Oh, I know this amazing reader who said it'll be over in weeks. I remember thinking, doesn't feel like that to me at all. I kept getting the sense that at minimum it would be this spring. And the reason is the Saturn switch, because Saturn changes signs in March, and that moves away from Zelensky's sun sign, Aquarius. And usually when you get into a thing and Saturn is in your sign, till it gets out, it's difficult to get out of it. And there are other things in this chart that also are the Pluto cycle. It's moving away. And meanwhile, Putin's is getting more complicated, particularly if it's true that there are health concerns. And you keep hearing, not just in social media outlets that are sometimes hard to trust, but I've seen it in mainstream media that something is off with his health. And where Saturn is going, Saturn's going into Pisces. He's a Libra, and he has multiple planets in Libra, all kinds of planets there. And I, even though people argue with me about the day and time, I don't see any reason to doubt the chart. His chart has been around for a long time, right? Since, the 1990s. So the period he's going in is not good for health in the context of some health issue that is already there. It's kind of signaling this is going to get worse, not better. And then it's not good for politics and winning situations and so forth. He totally missed it. This guy had his opportunity. His chart was just rocking when Trump was elected. If he makes that move, then Ukraine would be Russian now. But he didn't. So his timing is out. He wasn't using any
totally believe that. Yeah, I totally believe that. And I also think that, when you're not, clearly Putin is not connected to the divine, but when you're not connected to the divine, your instincts are off. You may think I have great instincts. We always hear that from Trump. He has great instincts, but I think you're right. I think that was the moment, and his instincts didn't make that clear to him that this is it or forget it. And so he missed his time.
Yeah, he did, because you'd probably agree that his major miscalculation, and I could see how he could make it. He had this idea that because Biden's Afghanistan exit was kind of choppy, he wouldn't be in the mood to engage, and he got the total opposite. Biden immediately got NATO together, which was I think if Putin had known this, he would never have done this. Never would have done that, because he would have realized, I'm going to put my own power in peril. And this is what he's done, right? And so,
Yeah, absolutely. And that's almost exactly what I got when all those tanks were lined up and they were like, are they going in? Are they not? And I just kept getting, if he goes in, he's finished. If he goes in,
Yeah.
he's done. It will be over. And he'll hurt Russia as well. The opposite thing that he wants to do, he's going to hurt his own country. So
yeah, he has, for sure.
Now I keep getting that, and I wonder if you could make sense of this chart wise for me, just to validate it. But I keep getting something major happening. And to me, it feels like Putin and Trump. It doesn't mean that not together, but just something happening with Putin, something happening with Trump that's major and kind of life altering in March, and also something happening in September. So I wonder, is there anything going on with the planets in March and September that might make sense?
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing with astrology too, by the way, is that I always remind people it's a little bit like where horseshoes and grenades, when they say in horseshoes and grenades, you only have to get close. If you're close, it's good enough.
Right.
Grenade. So, which normally you need precision. And astrology at times it's incredibly precise, where you'll get something happening at the exact moment with the moon triggering, stuff like that. But just as much, you get a range when there's a troubled, almost like a wave. And Trump's February is really bad. March is not really any better. So it could be that in February it's swirling around, then it happens in March. Yeah. So long story, keeping it short, absolutely. For both these people, the entire 2023 is like that. But yeah, March could definitely fit the bill. Absolutely.
Yeah, I kind of think it has to do with these, indictments coming, things like that. But it just feels like, yeah, something collapses for him, and same with Putin. March and September, those 2 months keep coming up. But the other thing that I was going to ask you about was if we can come back to the United States, is Fani Willis. Have you ever done her chart?
Her I did at one point. I think there's only a time as well, but now I can't remember hers, what it was exactly with her. But what I can say though is that it looks like she may be the one to go first in confronting Trump. Now that's a supposition, because she said, she made that statement. How did she say? As decisions are imminent.
Imminent. It's imminent.
Right? And then I heard that the judge will not allow her to sit on that secrecy, that she might get a week or two, but then it has to be made public. So she knows that. So it is imminent. It's not made up. And the thing that makes me suspicious is that this is right in the range. Trump right now is really teetering. He's right on the precipice of major trouble, because the planets are lined up very similar to when the FBI went into Mar-a-Lago. And that's how you know that things are getting really rocky. Jupiter and Saturn, the two of them together. So yeah, my guess has been that she's likely to be the first thing.
She's the one.
But there's so many fronts for that.
Right. Yeah. I kept getting that it was going to be that his indictment would come the end of January, beginning of February. And I remember in November, that's what I was saying. And I wanted so much to see it was before Christmas, because I knew you wanted it to be before Christmas, or please tell me it's before Christmas. But I kept seeing it kind of end of January, beginning of February. So that would line up with how bad things are for him.
Yeah, no, I said this I think I did some videos in early December. I think I said the exact same thing, that I drew this thing where you see that from mid-January onward, it's just really tricky. Everything is red and so yeah, we're there now though. I mean, we're at the door, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're absolutely. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you and these are kind of just bigger questions, but what I was getting, I can't remember what I saw. It was something to do with what was it? It was something I was watching something, and all of a sudden, it came to me that, because I kept thinking in the United States, well, in Europe, they're kind of those old kind of remnants of World War II energy is reemerging. That's what it seems like. It's familiar. So this invading other countries and even Europe kind of having energy problems, people being cold and having to like get my daughter calls me from the UK and she's bundled up in her blankets and stuff, and just these kind of remnants of old kind of World War II energy is there right now. And I kept thinking here, it's kind of old Civil War energy. But as I was watching something came to me that was, no, it's not old Civil War energy. It's Old West. It's the Old West. And with all this stuff with the guns and people, even people taking pictures with their guns, that was so popular during the gunslinger era. And even the idea that the good guys are the bad guys, like we're having such issues with our police forces and our politicians, the people that are supposed to be our lawmakers. There's so much corruption, and it does remind me of the Old West. I mean, how many Westerns have you seen where the sheriff is the one who's the bad guy and the gunslinger
Right.
comes in to save the town from the sheriff?
Yeah,
And I was just, it just like dawned on me, and I'm like, of course, that's what this is. It's that Old West kind of, and also the chaos of it, right? I think of the Old West as being very chaotic, and people, everybody kind of having to take the law into their own hands and protect themselves, and it was a little paranoid, and then you also had the land grabs from the Native Americans and that kind of thing that was going on, the territories being taken, that idea of scarcity, right? There's not enough and we need to get ours because everybody's grabbing at stuff, and so we need to get ours. But what do you think about that, and what would be going on planetary wise that would have been going on back then and now? Because I know you did the whole thing on Pluto, and I was wondering, do you remember what was happening, what the planets kind of looked like in the late 1800s here, and what could be repeating now? Is that too broad of a question for you? But
no,
doesn't that make sense in a weird way?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. It's a great question because those are the bigger patterns, but they're if anything, they're more important because those patterns in a way take over the whole thing. And one of the things you see is that in the Civil War period, and then it was repeated in the Second World War in the 1940s, which were extremely tense around the world. The atomic bomb was dropped. I mean, there was a lot of death there. It was brutal.
Right.
Like Uranus was discovered in Gemini, and it just turns out that when Uranus is in Gemini, correlates with a difficult period. The Civil War in the United States happened with Uranus in Gemini, like basically that span of time. And so then you get the Second World War, same thing. And we're not yet at Uranus in Gemini. And that's in a way the scary part, because this is back to horseshoes and grenades. We're almost there. It's about to be the case in 2025, 2026. But it's a period of time when the world is in a really turbulent state and people are fighting over different things. But when I look at the effect of Uranus, what gives me hope is that Uranus as an energy, to me, it's actually the planet when it was discovered, hundreds of years ago now, but when it was discovered, it correlates most to what people call the age of Aquarius, in that the age of Aquarius has this feeling of democracy, of the people ruling rather than having kings and fascists, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not a smooth transition. And when you look at what happened in the Civil War here and what happened in the Second World War, the good guys won. It's just that it was pretty tough. I mean, there were people like Hitler, and Mussolini and so forth. Well, they lost, but we had to go through a lot of trouble in order to get to that point. And this period has a similar feel in that there's a return of that. Look at all the turbulence in so many democracies in the world right now. Israel is having a hard time. France, the UK, the US, and concurrent with all these fascist movements, even in Germany, I mean, although they're better at dealing with it there, because I guess they got closer.
Right.
So they deal with it better. But it's pretty dicey in that we have to stand firm and hope that in the end, democracies will be strengthened, maybe through new laws. The idea being that the planet doesn't really care what people think. If the planet is related to freeing people, you can continue to try to enslave them, because really all this, these people like MTG, they're basically, they're no different than, slave owners in the South, the way they behave and the way they talk. They say they're for freedom. They're not for freedom. They're for limiting, power, keeping it, in one place, concentrating it. And this is the way fascism works, or anything that is anti-democracy. But unfortunately, we have to go through it. There's no way out. So the US, I think, at minimum, I would be amazed if in this decade or the next, we didn't get into a conflict with some country outside, or the internal conflict might continue, until it gets resolved. But all you can do is continue to show up. I mean, people are always saying, "Oh, my vote doesn't count." No, it does. Like, votes count, and that's the only way you can do this, unless you plan to pick up your gun. And I know what you mean, that the US has a long history of the Wild West, and there are more guns than people. It's brutal here compared to the rest of the world. Although we're probably safe from being invaded, because I don't think any country is ever going to invade.
No, that's true. That's very true. Yeah, we definitely, and so that's interesting, because when you talk about Uranus, you're talking about that kind of, when I did my 2023 predictions, a lot of times my guys, I think, just to keep it simple for me, they give kind of a through line, kind of a symbolic picture of kind of the through line of what it's gonna be like this year. So I kind of have it somewhere to latch onto, to understand the things that I'll get. And one thing they said was, it was gonna, the symbolism they gave me was David and Goliath, that there was gonna be a David and Goliath,
David and Goliath,
the Bible story, and that there was gonna be a lot of little guys toppling big guys. A lot of unions popping up, basic and regular people kind of taking their power back and things like that. And so what you're talking about, it kind of goes along with that, that idea of kind of democracies kind of getting their sea legs again. And that kind of goes along with that, right?
It does, yeah. And I mean, and it's, some of it is these big cycles, some of it you can almost predict, because the internet in the end is a very, very bad tool for fascists, because the internet lets the information get around. And the way fascism works is you have to hide information, keep people from really understanding what's going on. And that's so hard these days. I mean, even for China, they use VPNs, they do all kinds of things to get around the government censorship. And sooner or later, you're sitting on a powder keg. I mean, look at places like Iran, where, women are getting more and more angry. That's another thing. Women as a gender, that's a rising force. It's impossible to stop. So the last thing you want to do is what Iran did, and create anger among all the women. And then, like, separately in Russia, what I've read is that Russia ran into a major problem with, I think it was their Afghanistan war, as mothers became more and more aware of what was really going on. They were losing their children to the war. And this is going to happen again, because Putin is so desperate. He's throwing, prisoners in there, and whatever he can find, he sends them to the front line. And which, by the way, back in the Second World War, Stalin could send hundreds of thousands of men telling them a story. That doesn't work today. You try that, and a lot of them leave the country. People are too informed. And so
exactly. It's a double-edged sword, right? The internet and the way it can be used. It can be, when we first started getting the World Wide Web, you actually saw a lot of uprisings, because all of a sudden
Yes.
people could communicate and organize and things like that. And now you're kind of seeing the flip side of the government's actually using it against people. And yeah,
Right.
so it's a double-edged sword, right?
It is. It's a double-edged sword, but overall, if I were a fascist, I would prefer there be no internet. Just say that, right? That's what I'm going to do.
Right.
No internet, please. Internet is forbidden. Not allowed.
Yeah, it would. Yeah. Well, I mean, North
Yeah.
Korea, right? They have very, very limited everything, and it keeps them in the dark.
Like in a way, then you have to create illusions within the internet, which
Right.
separately, that's what's been going on. That's the Neptune cycle, because Neptune is famous for that. It's in Pisces, etc. But it's still super complicated, because the idea of the internet is that you're giving everyone a voice, or you're connecting everyone. So in one form or another, they're connected, and the risk is that it gets out, because you can't just hide the documents, or the papers or whatever it is. No, I mean, this is digital and it's everywhere. So it's very, very risky.
Right. So that was my last topic to ask you about the documents, all of these documents popping up in people's garages and wherever.
Yeah, the documents.
So is that part of the because my guides also showed like for a while now, actually, it hasn't just been this year, it's been like coming this kind of constant things coming up, everything coming out into the light, everything being exposed, people understanding what's going on. We even have like, FBI agents getting arrested now, and all of these, it's like all of the plots I think are going to make sense this year. We're going to kind of understand what actually happened. Is this everything coming to light and coming up into the this truth whatever thing coming out? Is that what is happening with the planets that's making that kind of just more possible now? Like you can't hide if you hide something, it's going to come out. It's just like it's in the air right now. So what is that?
Yeah, well, and do you mean, are you referring to like broadly as a category, or are you?
Broadly, because it just seems like, lies are getting exposed more quickly. People, the documents are coming out, even for people that, even when they were back, Biden has stuff back when he was a senator. It probably isn't even relevant anymore, but here it is. It's out in the open. And it just seems like and also I think we're getting a handle on January 6th, what happened with that, and all of the stuff that we're making all the connections. Everything's coming out. And is that just an overall thing that's been happening? Because it seems like the last few years it's been happening.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's this side where you look at someone's connection to it. And so like for Biden, my feeling is the worst part for Biden is between now and mid-March at the latest. After that, the topic doesn't go away, but it's not on the same intense level. It'll completely disappear by the following year, where there's no pressure at all around that, but till March for sure, because of Saturn. I thought with Biden, his late Scorpio planets wouldn't be this harsh, but when you're president and, he's, instead of looking like Sleepy Joe, he's looking like Sloppy Joe at the moment, because he didn't take care of his document. So that's that. And then Trump is just, his chart just screams documents and messaging. So the irony is that he got himself in so much hot water over what he used to say was bad about Hillary, right? But then in the broader sense, things coming out there, when you say impactful information that reaches the public domain, previously hidden, typically you see that with big planetary shifts that are either imminent, like immediate, or soon to come. And we're really on the cusp now of quite a few. Like Pluto will get out of a Capricorn. It's been in Capricorn since 2008, which, by the way, is a great symbol for the rising fascism during this period. But it's very near the end now, and then it goes into Aquarius. But it'll go into Aquarius a little bit this year, a little more next year, and fully in the year after that. So it's because it's doing a forward, retrograde, forward, but still it's moving in that direction. And then Neptune also will get out of, Neptune's been in Pisces since 2011. It'll get out of Pisces in 2025. And again, we're near the end. So those types of shifts really change the energy in the public domain and in every respect. But I have a feeling, by the way, that this latest, why did Biden and Pence both get ensnared in a document thing? And what popped into my mind when you were talking about it is the Mars cycle, because Mars is in Gemini, and Mars did this thing. Gemini is the sign of documents, right? And Mars did a thing where it was retrograde, and then it went direct in mid-January. It's still in Gemini, moving pretty slowly, and worse, it's in this condition called out of bounds, like it's really jutting up above the east-west plane. If you go really far north or really far south, planets like that are overly strong. And I think that's separately why we've had a lot more shootings in the last while, because we're like higher than one per day. I mean, it's really nuts lately. It's just crazy. It's like this Mars and guns and killing, and Mars is a very combative, warlike planet, right? But the Gemini part, I connect to the documents, because Gemini is documents, and it's a little strange that they would pop up so much in the last, last month, really. Right. So anyways, the bottom line though is in a big umbrella thing, things are definitely shifting. And if you're getting an intuition that more is going to come out, totally fits. Absolutely. Things that in the past, like we're all kind of going, I think that makes sense about someone was helping Trump. Yeah. Then all of a sudden the FBI guy, he was working with their past.
Yeah.
Can you believe that? I mean, and this is like, again, the opposite. This is the Republican Party always telling you the opposite of what is happening. They keep saying that the FBI is helping Democrats. No, they're not. No, they're not. This is not true. No, I mean, it's the opposite. There was a mole in there.
Exactly. There was a deep state, but it wasn't working for us. They were working for Trump, or they were working for Putin, really. I mean, that's really who they were working for. But
exactly.
Andre, I love talking to you. We've been talking for almost an hour, and I could talk to you for another hour or two. So
it's fun.
I can just keep asking questions and questions.
Likewise, it's a lot of fun speaking with you, because you're so up on it that it makes it really easy. It just feels like a flow.
Thank you.
It's wonderful. Yeah.
Thanks so much. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope we get to do a live sometime. I think that would be really fun, because I know as we talk, people probably think of 100 questions that I didn't get to. So I hope we can do that sometime soon. Absolutely. Okay. All right. Take care. Okay. Thank you, interviewers. See you later.
Bye, everyone.